And now we're ready to go with the special meeting, and I will go ahead and read what's here. In accordance with the Virginia Beach City Code, Section 2-21, and by authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Virginia Beach, I hereby call for a special formal session of the Virginia Beach Council, Tuesday, April 26, 2022 at 6 p.m., City Council Chambers, Building 3, former Building 1, second floor, 2403 Courthouse Drive. The purpose of the special formal mission is to conduct a public hearing to obtain public information regarding the proposed real property tax increase. If you wish to make comments during the meeting and participate virtually, please follow the two-step process. Register for WebEx at hps:3bvgov.com or register with the city clerk office by calling 757-385-4303 prior to 5 p.m. on April 6, 2020. The special session will be broadcast on cable TV at www.vbgov.com and Facebook Live. Citizens are encouraged to submit their comments to the City Council prior to the special session by email at citycouncil@vbgov.com. Sincerely, Bobby Dyer. Okie dokie. Yes, Mr. Moss.
Per state law, I'm required to state orally the letter that I have on file for this meeting disclosing that my wife is a school teacher, and the fact that she is a school teacher, this budget deals with the school board, I can objectively and not be unduly influenced by my wife's occupation, and I assure you that I am not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the speakers.
The first speaker is Barbara Messner. After Ms. Messner is Joseph Scott.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, today's budget isn't just new personal property taxes. It's the entire $3 billion plus $567 million first phase of the bond referendum. Oh, crap. I didn't bring the other glasses. That's okay. We have third world infrastructure and communist crime, shootings, car crashes, and toxic workplace environment. And for people to come here for the vibe in Mocha when the public works people need money is shameful. Abolish funds for Economic Development Authority. They have the authority to take out debt. Their global travel, there should be no city-state grants and tax breaks. Don't waive machinery and tool tax for all these private companies, including steel, Aldi's, hotels, breweries, Why Not Pizza, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the conflicts, you know, you only mention one. Everyone here takes money from the Political Action Committee from either party and from the hotel, motel, timeshare industry. That's a conflict. Ms. Wilson, you have conflicts with Town Bank and you know, your staff here, and you own a hotel. Good evening. Mr. Branch, you know, these are conflicts for all the money that's spent at the oceanfront. And the cement parks are not parks. They're venues, and we need our beach back. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, Rosemary.
I'd like the
public to know that I have no conflicts with Town Bank. My company is Howard Hanna. It's not with Berkshire Hathaway.
We can't hear you.
Thank you for letting me know you couldn't hear me. I have no conflicts with Town Bank. I'm with Howard Hanna, which is totally not with Town Bank. I don't have a checking account. I don't own any stock. I don't have a credit card. I don't even own a PIN from Town Bank, so I don't know. I have no conflicts.
They
The next
finance.
Okay,
speaker,
thank you,
They
thank you,
next
Miss.
speaker is Joseph Scott, and after Mr. Scott is Ronna Marsh. Joseph Scott, Mrs. Marsh, and then Pam Gooseland.
Good evening, Council. I enjoyed listening to your informal and all the information you put out about the health of citizens, the mental health. I'm here to talk about the financial health of citizens. I think a number of you have heard from citizens who cannot afford these tax increases. Several weeks ago, I brought this and I talked about affordability and the tax burdens. I don't think those have gone away for most of the citizens that are in the middle class. There may be some elites, there may be people who are in poverty who are getting help, but I think we really need to take a look at why we're increasing the taxes when we don't have to. We have a 91-cent revenue neutral budget, and we could help citizens at this really difficult time. I sent you an article from Reuters. It just came out yesterday, and it's about the spot market on trucking. I don't expect you to follow the spot market on trucking, but I expect you to understand that that is usually an indicator that we are going into a recession and that the markets are not going to be favorable. So if it's bad now, it could be worse. And by going into more debt and by raising taxes, you're only compounding a problem that's difficult for citizens. So I thought, what could I suggest to give you a solution? Because I come up here and I always tell you what I don't like, but I want to suggest that we become the city of can. Sometimes we use the word yes, but I think it's important to think about, let's become the city of can. And that, to me, represents citizens' affordability now. It seems a little basic, but I think citizens are feeling it. I keep reading stories that are posted of citizens who don't have enough money, and I feel the same way myself. It's a choice. What am I going to cut? What am I going to spend on? What am I going to do? I'm a retired senior. And so I think there are more of us, and what I'd like to suggest is that we can form a group of CAN, Citizens Affordability Now. Maybe we can even use some of the same features that the RAC uses. I think they have a suite, or they have offices in the convention center. Maybe there's some benefits that we can get to get a group of people who can talk to you frequently, and maybe we can get the people who are with Alice, the United Way, that talks about people who are just at the borderline of poverty to come and talk to us. We need to have a more frequent conversation about our financial health, because this once a year for a few weeks doesn't seem to make a difference. And we really are having people that are having serious financial issues. Thank you.
The next speaker is Pam Gooseland. Pam Gooseland. Jerome Bell. Jerome Bell. Oh, are you Miss Gooseland? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There was a gentleman before me.
No, you go right ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Honorable Mayor Dyer and Council, my name is Pam. I have just a couple of little quick questions, nothing you haven't heard or thought of. My first concern is with the taxes, you're really going to be forcing a lot of middle class out of Virginia Beach. I've lived here for 30-some years. I love Virginia Beach. I have a house worth a couple of dollars. I'd like to be able to continue to live in it and pay my taxes. Thank you.
Jerome Bell. Ryan Reyes. And then Kate Lucas.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I wanted to start out by saying thank you for all the work you've done in regards to putting together the proposed budget. I know it's not straightforward and it was difficult. Although the budget can seem straightforward, particularly I have appreciated the proposal of funding towards the library. The money dedicated to the library is a lot more than just numbers in regards to books and buildings. Rather, to me and myself, and others of the library card holders, it represents more. To me, it's hours of endless entertainment, listening to audiobooks on road trips. It's a place for my son to go and play and spend time with me. It's a burgeoning hobby in gardening from online magazines. And so on behalf of all the citizens that you're helping in those matters, I want to say thank you.
Appreciate it.
Kate Lucas. After Miss Lucas will be Sarah Gerloff.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's very hard to hear back there, so can you all hear me now? Okay, we can't hear it all back there. Sorry, I'm getting old. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Kathleen Lucas, and I'm a high school math teacher and a resident of Virginia Beach. I am here to address the revenue sharing policy and the $22 million that is due to the school division. That money is supposed to go to the schools and needs to go to compensate school staff. Virginia Beach has not kept up with inflation nor the cost of living for teacher pay in over 10 years. We all know the rate of inflation is 8%, and our school board only plans to give us a 5% raise. It is extremely disappointing because Chesapeake is giving their teachers a 10% raise. Many school divisions statewide are planning for a 10% raise, and my friend who teaches in Warrenton, Virginia, is getting a 13% raise. Why should teachers stay in Virginia Beach? Why should new teachers choose to come to Virginia Beach? Both Norfolk and Chesapeake pay their experienced teachers much more than Virginia Beach. For example, a teacher with 20 years of experience makes about $60,000 in Virginia Beach. The same teacher makes $65,000 in Norfolk and over $63,000 in Chesapeake. In addition, both divisions pay more for a master's degree than Virginia Beach. Do you know the difference in pay between a teacher with 20 years experience and a young teacher just out of college? $10,000. Yes, you heard me correctly, $10,000. When I told my brother, who's retired Navy, he almost fell out of his chair. Virginia Beach does not value teachers, and especially not experienced teachers. As a field comprised of predominantly females, it is no surprise that educators have been guilted into doing it for the children. Teachers need to recognize that we are being manipulated, and they need to take a stand. It is time for teachers to say, no, I will not write a letter of recommendation for your college-bound student. No, I will not screen National Honor Society applications. No, I will not chaperone a dance nor grade papers late at night. It is time to say no to unpaid work. If Virginia Beach does not keep up with the local communities, they will lose qualified teachers and will not be able to recruit new teachers. More than half of my math department will be eligible to retire in 4 years. That means 10 veteran math teachers. They cite low pay and high workload as the reason they will not remain in the profession. It is difficult to recruit teachers now, let alone math teachers. What do you think is going to happen in the next 4 years? Just as Virginia Beach strives to be a premier vacation destination for tourists, why can't it be great if it was a premier school division that teachers want to work in? Virginia Beach needs to set an example and show everybody that teachers are valued. It is time to make the teaching profession as attractive as our beaches. If we want to continue the excellent education that students receive in this county, then Virginia Beach needs to value teachers and school staff and pay a livable wage. Please honor the revenue sharing policy. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sarah Gerloff. After Ms. Gerloff is Roger Dadiomo.
Good evening.
Sorry, I messed that up.
I want to make it clear, I am not a part of any political party because I see clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle, with the middle-class taxpayers keeping this country afloat. I am of the people, by the people, and for the people. I speak for many. The right to property is given to us by our Creator and is listed in our federal and state constitutions. I have already explained this to this board, that a right cannot be licensed, charged a fee, or taxed. I also presented a number of cases to back up this fact. Personal property taxes are and always have been unconstitutional, but you should already know this since you are to uphold our Constitution. Having to pay a yearly tax on property we own is the same as charging us rent. By coercing the people to pay this so-called tax, rent, you have been violating the federal and Virginia constitutions. You have also been violating Title 18, U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights under color of law, and Title 18, U.S. Code 241, conspiracy against rights. I read Sal Alinsky's 8 Steps to Communism at last week's budget hearing. Let's go over a few of those again. Number 2 was to increase the poverty level as high as possible by destroying the middle-class taxpayers. How do you accomplish this? Well, with number 3, you increase the debt to an unsustainable level so you can increase taxes and produce more poverty. This can be accomplished by misappropriating funds, i.e., subsidizing businesses. Number 7, remove God from government. Ignore the people's constitutional rights. Remember, if there is no God, there is no liberty. 8, divide and conquer by playing favorites. Benefit the few instead of the whole by giving money to special interest groups or your buddies. Thomas Jefferson knew what he was talking about when he said, equal rights for all, special privileges for none. Guess who has been ushering in communism? Every single one of you, in your own special way. As elected representatives, you are supposed to protect us from enemies foreign and domestic. But it is clear you have become an enemy of the free people. Abraham Lincoln wrote, America will never be destroyed from outside. If we falter and lose our freedom, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. This council is a train that wrecked a long time ago. You are still trying to ride a train wreck, but you have become the emperor with no clothes. The light sees the dark. You have trespassed against many. Time to repay the debt that you owe to the people.
Thank you.
Checkmate. Game
The
over.
next speaker is Roger Daddymo. And then Lisa Varga.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. You have to keep up. I'm going to speak fast so I can get it all out. I find it incomprehensible that anyone must appeal to this body to recognize this isn't the time for real estate tax increases. What's equally distressing is listening to people lobby at the last public forum for a bigger piece of the pie when the pie plate is empty. In case you haven't heard, inflation rates have hit a 40-year historic high of 8.5%. That doesn't seem to include gas prices that have risen from $2.33 in January 21 to $4.21, which is an 80% increase today. Food prices are also skyrocketing with even more dramatic increases on the way. For 25 years that I've been here, the story hasn't changed. The cry has always been we need more taxes to pay for teachers, firefighters, police, etc., and we're suffering through shortages because of comparatively low wages. Yet the VBEA didn't push back against a school board recommendation to spend millions on AstroTurf or accelerating the completion of new school construction that's already planned. That money could have gone to teacher raises and hiring. The VBEA also didn't support the minority school board members who said hiring teachers for taxpayers' children's education should be a priority over funding ESL teachers for students flooding our area from foreign countries, often because of illegal immigration. While affluent groups, including real estate developers, had multiple speakers on behalf of VIBE and the art community, they turned a deaf ear to us city employees, specifically UE Local 111, who spoke passionately about not making minimum livable wages. Those city workers aren't concerned with free museums in the art district. They're concerned about putting gas in their car and food on their tables. While many have spoken about raises, the increased real estate tax will erode any increases they receive in their paycheck. Yet you, Mayor Dyer, and the council think this is a good time to raise real estate taxes. You shouldn't call anything you do a budget. If this were a business, you would have bankrupted us years ago. Although anecdotal stories have little value, we all see fleets of new trucks and vehicles the city possesses. We've all seen trucks idling for hours at various work projects. Maybe the rest of you should do the hard work and truly look at an income and expense and make a revenue-neutral budget work. I can't figure out if it's corruption, ignorance, or a combination of both, but I hope every voter remembers where you stood at this pivotal moment. I also hope there are investigations for any malfeasance, as there were for prior Virginia Beach mayor who laughed at a meeting when I said to him, "You clearly have a conflict of interest." 3 years later, he was charged with 6 crimes. He pled nolo contendere to 1 and was convicted. You also had Virginia Beach government becoming a banana republic. You had a former economic development employee, Warren Harris, who pled guilty of embezzling $79,000 and used $32,000 of taxpayer money in accrued leave. Why would a fired employee have accrued anything? And he was given a suspended sentence. All he had to do was pay back the money he stole. We paid him during that time period. I don't believe this body is governing responsibly for the people you're supposed to be representing.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lisa Varga. After Ms. Varga is Wendy Crutchfield.
Honorable Mayor and the members of City Council, thank you for the chance to speak to you today. My name is Lisa Varga, and I am a member of the board of the Virginia Beach Public Library. I've lived in Virginia for 21 years and Virginia Beach for the last 12, which I realize makes me brand new here. Of course, in my role on the board for the library, you would expect me to come here and advocate for funding for the library, and that I am. I'm here to thank you for your support and the library and the management services recommendation that City Council fully fund the library's proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. I am also the executive director of the Virginia Library Association, which is a chapter of the American Library Association. I'm active in the Public Library Association and the International Council of Library Association Executives. And I say that not because you need my resume, but because my business is libraries. It has been nearly 25 years since I got my master's degree in library science, and I work every day to support libraries, librarians, and library workers. What that means is I've seen a lot of libraries. A lot of them in the Commonwealth, a lot of them throughout the country, and Virginia Beach Public is nationally recognized by these groups. Articles about VBPL and the work their staff do are shared throughout national networks of libraries, with many other locales trying to emulate VBPL programs. When a community entity is that respected, it sends a message to other localities that a library is valued. Literacy is vital, access to information is vital, and libraries are essential. I remember when I was a young mother, the library was the one place where I could always say yes to my kids. Can we get more books? Can we get more videos? Can we check out more video games? The answer was always yes. It helped because there were a lot of places that I just had to say no. But it's not just about books. The library has never been just about books. It's about access and exploration and learning. Everyone everywhere needs their library at some point in their lives. Some may use it more when their kids are young or when they are living on a fixed income. But the library has, and has always had, something for everyone. In fact, I have a friend who is a CPA in this town who has gotten more people hooked on free audiobooks from their library app than you can ever possibly imagine. I know you have a lot of tough decisions to make when it comes to the future of the city, and I respectfully request that you fully fund the library's 2023 fiscal year budget request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Wendy Crutchfield. After Ms. Crutchfield will be LG Shaw.
Good evening.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Wendy Crutchfield, and thank you to John Moss for acknowledging the letter that I wrote to Council. Although I understand that you may have already made a collective decision to increase our tax rate 8.6% above the revenue neutral rate of 91 cents, I wanted to implore you to do better. Our city should not be operating in a surplus of their own creation during a time when our citizens are hurting from rising costs, inflation, shortages everywhere. As a resident since 1971, a housing provider, and a realtor, it seems to me your duty is to deliver a revenue-neutral budget. This action to increase the tax rate to 99 cents ignores the pain Virginia Beach citizens are experiencing at a time when you could help. Great job on the car tax reduction. You can do better on real estate. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is LG Shaw, and then Catherine Gould.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, council members, for all you do for the city and for having us here tonight. Wanted to reach out to you on behalf of neighborhood I've called home on and off my whole life, the oceanfront. I grew up, my family has way-rented vehicles. It's accidentally ended up in the middle of the Vibe District. I have to say it's been one of the best ROIs the city's probably ever had. I think it's just an amazing grassroots organization that doesn't ask for too much, and the renewed Contemporary Arts Center that's now the MoCA it's amazing the kind of synergy that's built down there. In the last 5 years since the Vibe has come online, we've seen a $45 million increase in assessments just in our district. Like I said, my family's been in that neighborhood for over 50 years, building surfboards from the 60s, moved around to Norfolk Avenue and back, and I'd say there's been more positive gain and more community engagement in the area in the last 5 to 7 years than probably the previous 45 years. Of course, as a retailer, we love seeing that, but it's great seeing the community and folks pull up on the weekends when there's farmers markets and activations, and they're bringing out the strollers and they're cruising around for 2 hours, longer than I've seen most folks even hanging out on the boardwalk. And we know the boardwalk, the city's long since wanted to be a year-round destination. The boardwalk and the beach becomes a little bit of a useless, when it's cold and windy out there. The Vibe has some fun activations. There's all sorts of things you can view from your car. You can walk around. There's restaurants, and the MoCA is doing a great job of overhauling all of its representation there. So I think we've got an amazing thing happening down there. As we understand it, the requests for the budget have been removed from the city budget. We want to ask for those to be put back in there. Let's not let this amazing momentum we've generated over the last few years for, I think, a relatively small investment from the city go to waste. Let's keep those going if we can. I'm happy for my tax dollars to be put back obviously into my community, but again, it's amazing to see the folks that are coming in, and it's changing the whole area for the better. A lot bigger crowds and a lot more folks from not just our neighborhoods, but other cities and areas for sure. Thank you again for your time and all you guys deal with.
The next speaker is Karen Gould, and then Kate Pittman.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your time and consideration for the funding of the Vibe Creative District. My name is Katrin Gould, and I am the Vice President of the Friends of the Vibe. I have been an active participant, supporter, and volunteer since it first began. I was born and raised at the oceanfront, riding my bike anywhere and everywhere it would take me. I attended East Carolina University and earned a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in printmaking and drawing. When I left Virginia Beach for college, it was with the intention of not moving back. I wanted to do big things and to be an artist. Virginia Beach did not hold a space for that. As life would have it, after 5 years of living inland, I moved back home to the oceanfront. It was 2011 and the Vibe didn't exist yet, but the art scene had grown a tiny bit. I signed up for as many festivals and art shows as I could. There just was not a creative, consistent community that was accessible. Then the Vibe was born. The city that felt like it cared more about tourists and making money than its own residents wanted me to put my artwork on a fence for all to see, even if it was just those who went down 18th Street between Cypress and Mediterranean. It turned a neighborhood that was neglected and forgotten, one I didn't want to ride my bike through, into a vibrant, shining, income-producing, thriving, heart-beating community, one that I now feel safer riding my bike through than I do on the boardwalk. Growing up, I was told that art was a hobby. I was smart, and my brain is what would help me succeed. Luckily for me, my parents encouraged both. While my day-to-day job is now with Town Bank, I know that the big thing I can do for art is to help create a legacy in my hometown for all future artists, for that next beach girl biking her heart out across the ocean front, seeing life-size murals, thinking I can do that, and most importantly, being told, yes, you can. You can be paid for that. You are important, and your art is important. I could repeat the figures previously shared with you, and I hope that you recognize the monetary significance that the Vibe has generated. But what I feel is most important to share with you is the community that the Vibe has created. An all-inclusive community that grows together, celebrates success together, and weathers hardships together. If you haven't yet, the next time you're on your phone, I encourage you to Google the Vibe and see how many positive articles it generates. Next, I encourage you to Google the benefits of art and you will find countless examples of how it makes communities stronger. As our city prepares to enter a new phase of growth and expansion, we would be misguided to leave the arts behind. I could spend the rest of the evening telling you about each business, mural, and garden in the Vibe, but instead, I invite you to join me next Friday for our first Friday mural tour, 6 p.m. at the Love Sign. And there I can show you in person how truly wonderful the Vibe Creative District is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Kate Pittman. After Ms. Pittman is Brad Belton.
Good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, and City Manager. Thank you for the opportunity to come speak again. As the Executive Director of the Vibe District, Virginia Beach's Arts District, it has been my pleasure to share our creative district here in the city with colleagues from all around the Commonwealth of Virginia, throughout the country, and even on an international platform. Tomorrow afternoon, I will present for the second time with the Virginia Commission for the Arts, the statewide virtual conference in partnership with the Virginians for the Arts. I'm proud to report that the Vibe nonprofit has received Tier 1 funding from the state's arts agency since day one, and we have been invited to share our successes with our peers across the state. The focus of tomorrow's presentation is, and I quote, "The range of initiatives that have made Virginia Beach's oceanfront district a national model for a destination tourism experience." Those are their words, not ours. What a compliment from the arts leaders in our state. Last fall, Vibe was also invited to speak at the American Society of Landscape Architects National Conference in Nashville, where Vibe, city staff, and Orbis Landscape presented a session called Raising the Bar on Creative Placemaking, a Vibrant Transformation in Virginia Beach. Session feedbacks from the audience included many professionals stating that this was the best presentation that they heard at the conference that year. Also last fall, Vibe received an inquiry via Facebook from a professional colleague all the way in Brazil who was studying creative territories throughout the world. After researching over 60 territories, they were drawn to the Vibe District in Virginia Beach due to the large amount of virtual online content and our active social media presence. As one of 20 speakers from 9 different countries, at the International Conference of Creative Territories for Sustainable Development, I was able to share the partnership between the local Virginia Beach city government and our nonprofit arts group as a case study for international research. What we have created here together is very special, and that is being noticed by our professional peers. Thank you for your past support and your future support in this year's reconciliation budget.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Brad Belton. After Mr. Belton is Terry Green.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? Good to see y'all again.
Good to see you.
Appreciate y'all, Mayor and Vice Mayor, meeting with us yesterday afternoon. Gave us some pretty good information. But listening to everyone just came up so far talking about the taxes, the budget. I'm not only a city employee, I'm also a new homeowner in this city. Our pay is not what it's supposed to be, and now you want to raise my taxes. If you keep raising my taxes and you're not paying me, you're going to tax me right out of the city. And if I can't have my home in this city, why should I work in this city? You have to give me both. You have to give us both. I'm not asking you to do something ordinary. I'm asking you to do what's right. We bust our butt in this city. Money wants to go to the oceanfront. Like I said in the last meeting, the oceanfront is not Virginia Beach. The oceanfront is a part of the body. One limb. But the rest of these departments and these residents make up Virginia Beach. Y'all gotta do better than what you're doing, because people are quitting. And if there's nobody here to do the work, why are you so concerned about that oceanfront? we're the ones to make that oceanfront viable. If we're not out there picking that trash up, if we're not out there cleaning them streets, if we're not out there making sure that them sewer lines, that grass and everything else is out there that's done, who gonna do it? Them tourists are not gonna come here and do it. And if the city is not beautiful as we make it, what good is the oceanfront? Y'all gotta start taking care of us now. And not just the police and the fire department. No disrespect to my brothers and sisters, they put them uniforms on. They got guns, they got vests, they got hazmat suits and everything else like that. Public utilities don't have no protection. They go down in the sewer line, all of that wastewater is on them. I'm on a garbage truck. My window down, everything that I put up, dump in that can, if it's in an aerosol, it blows in that truck. We need that same protection. They get hazard pay. We can't even get regular pay. Something wrong here. We shouldn't have to come here and beg y'all to give us what we need to take care of our families in a city that we're sacrificing our lives in. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Terry Green. Terry Green. Are you Mr. Green? Hi. And then Tracy Smigel. Messing that up.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, how you doing? Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. I guess we all talking about the budget here. And we are like 8.8% inflation rate. We need money. And we've been crying for money for a long time. And I know you have your work to do to set the budget and the plan for the employees, yourself, and the rest of the city. But I hope it generates to the point where we can live off of this 8.8% inflation rate. I've got to look at employees every day. They can't even make it out of the parking lot. Hybrids can't even make it out of the parking lot because they don't have enough money. We have the highest COVID rate in the city of Virginia Beach. Because why? COVID is in the sewage water. Nobody hears about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. We're not getting no hazards pay or anything, and we on the front line every day dealing with it, which I'm in water, and we have to deal with it also. Now, if we can get anything above 8.8% of the inflation rate, that'll be fine. But if we don't, that'd be a slap in the face. And we tired of getting slapped in the face. We've been getting a 1.5% raise on a yearly basis, and the inflation rate going up 5%. The scale of justice don't match, and it's not going to do it. And I know y'all got your work to do, and I know it's hard work because y'all got to sit there and listen to us, which is a fine thing, that y'all do listen to us. But let's at least see some action. And y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Tracy Smigel. Sorry, I always mess your name up. And then Pat Thiebert. Sorry, I always mess your last name up. Smigel.
Hey, good evening.
Hi, I'm more of a reader. Good evening. My name is Tracy Smigel. I've worked for Department of Human Services with Developmental Services Case Manager since, for about 28 years now. After that many years of service to the city, I'm still just slightly past the midpoint of my pay range. When I retire, I will likely not even be at my max, and that's with being employed here for a little over 30 years. It's really disappointing to be so committed to the city virtually my entire adult life, almost, and not get the same level of commitment back. What we need now in this budget year is a step plan with years of service. The impact may not even reach me while I'm here because I'm going to be retiring soon enough. But hopefully it will reach the others that are here after I'm gone. So it's very important for them. We also need a position regrade, and we need that now. We need a minimum wage of at least $15. And when you do the math of the $15 and you kind of equate that out to an annual salary, it's actually not too far from the poverty level. Employees are really hurting. Inflation is high, and you've heard everybody talk about it, and raises never seem to come at the rate of inflation. So we're always still kind of several steps back, especially with the 8% inflation rate. Our families are affected, we are affected, which means the community is affected because that's who we serve. So we are short-staffed, exhausted, burnt out, and many are ready to go elsewhere where they can make a lot more money. Please don't let us down, not this year, not again. Make these changes for us and for the entire community.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Pat Thiebert, and then Elaine Feckety. It's not gonna.
Excuse me.
It doesn't help.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Dyer and City Council members. My name is Pat Faber. I work at the Intermediate Care Facility for the Human Services Department. I have been with the city for 14 years, and I'm not even at the midpoint of the salary range. I won't, with the current system we have, I will not reach the top of that range. We feel at 15 years, we should be at the top of the range, not at the bottom. We need a step plan that includes years of service. Now, city employees have shown to be loyal to the city, and that needs to be recognized with a step plan, including the years of service now. According to the market study that the city has done, there needs to be a regrading of positions. We feel that for every 5% below the market that a position is, they should be moved up. An example is if a G15 is 20% below that market, they should be moved up to a G19. Excuse me. With the average rents being $1,400 in Virginia Beach, many of our employees live outside of the city that they work for. The employees not even making $15 certainly cannot afford to live in Virginia Beach. We need to raise the minimum to at least $15 an hour. The workers that are making that low of pay are the laborers. And it is a hard job, and they deserve to get paid for what they are doing. And we are losing staff to companies that are paying more money. And the ones that are staying, we're getting stressed out. We can't expect the staff that are staying to carry that load of all these vacancies and not get appropriately, compensated for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope that you will do what's right for the city workers this year.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Elaine Feckety. After Ms. Feckety will be Dr. William Duke.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm back. I'm sorry I have to come back. I came last week, and I had a lot of people reach out to me and say thank you for speaking for us, because a lot of people can't make it because they're working 2 jobs and taking care of their families. So please don't think that the lack of people that have signed up to speak is an indication that everyone is okay with this. Last week we spoke about an 11.1% increase in the real estate rate, and this week it's 9%. Are we supposed to feel better about that? People are hurting. People are making tough decisions. It is your job, not ours, but yours, to come up with a 91-cent revenue neutral budget. By law, that is what you are required to do unless and until you make the decision to raise that rate. Now, I haven't heard any compelling arguments for raising that rate. And let me be clear, those of us that are speaking for a 91% rate are not saying, no, these people don't deserve raises, or no, you don't need to do that. We're saying they deserve raises. You can do that. You can make the choices to make it happen, just like every family and every individual is having to make these choices. Now, I know you're sick of me coming here every year and saying, don't raise my taxes, don't raise my taxes. This is the wrong year for that. We shouldn't have to tell you that. Many of you, or all of you actually, that were elected ran on some version of a platform, of Virginia Beach, a city for a lifetime, or
Let's make sure the military can retire here. Let's make sure our kids can start a family and afford to live here. This ain't happening. It's not happening with this. We can't do this every year, but especially this year, we cannot do this. A lot of you ran for a nonpartisan office on the same message. So where is that message now? And many of you used your party to get elected. I'm going to read a quote and see if any of you recognize it. Half of you should recognize this, because the people in that party that selected you believed that you thought that the free enterprise system is the most productive supplier of human needs and economic justice, and that fiscal responsibility and budgetary restraints must be exercised at all levels of government. Period. People are hurting. Please make this work. Mr. Moss has come up with a suggestion. I welcome suggestions from any of you. But if you can't make it to 91, at least do the citizens the courtesy of giving him a second on his motion. Because we the people, we the taxpayers, deserve to hear the discussion and deserve to hear the reasons on why you cannot make that happen. Thank you.
The next speaker is Dr. William Duke, and then Tracy Sanford.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, and I'm happy to be here. I'm William Duke, and I'm the vice chair of the Tidewater Libertarian Party. I'm also a resident of Virginia Beach, and I have an important word for you this evening. It's slash. See, at a time when inflation is taking such a big bite out of all the household budgets, and it's expected to be with us for a long time yet, and it's predicted only to get worse, it's incumbent on all of you to slash this city's budget. You must cut it to the bone. That's what our families are having to do, as you well know. It's not just gasoline. Food costs are skyrocketing. Everything delivered to us by trucks, and that's just about everything we buy, is on the rise. And because our home appraisals are way up, we are already paying higher real estate taxes, yes? Yet you are actually considering raising that tax rate. It's not a good idea. When so many city workers earn less than $15 an hour, it's madness, and it hurts lower earning workers, not to mention fixed income retirees, much harder than others. Never mind that they may no longer hope to save for a house. Soon they won't be able to pay their rent. So I am serious when I implore you to slash the budget. You should be, I think, slashing the budget should be your moral imperative tonight. That's what you should be doing. You need to declare a moratorium on unnecessary spending. No acquisition of new properties, no accelerated school building, no improvements to recreation centers, nothing like that. This year is unlike anything the people of Virginia Beach have seen in decades, and City Council must respond by slashing the budget. Now, Mr. Moss has done the tough homework, as only he can and will do. He's presented you with a good start. Now, you should start by passing his budget, and then you can each read it carefully, and you can each find somewhere else to cut money out. And all the money that you cut out of spending, you can give to these city workers back here who aren't getting paid enough. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tracy Sanford. Tracy Sanford, and then Jimmy Frost.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Generally, I think staff and city council do a pretty decent job of trying to balance all the voices in your ears on any given day. But when my retired parents are looking at a 12% assessment increase and my brother's family is staring down the barrel of a 25% increase in his tax bill this year, well, today's not that day. Understandably, the prices of goods and services for the city needs to buy have risen. The city also has to juggle a bunch of priorities like funding competitive pay scales for all employees, not just public safety, And as an aside, Suffolk has funded a STEP program, so if you want to go out there, go on out there if you don't get what you want here. And then you say there's flooding to worry about. Some of you are justifying this tax increase by saying that the public voted for it during a referendum last year. But maybe you should have explained what bait and switch meant when you used our tax money to hard sell the referendum in the first place. Don't get me wrong, you won't find me siding with a member who issues hollow calls for revenue-neutral budgets year after year, regardless of economic conditions. Residents want things that cost money. Reducing the tax rate to 91 cents is irresponsible, but you should expect nothing less from someone who spends his time demonizing school spending and instruction. Most folks don't understand that council has little control over assessments. Those standards are set by Virginia and are subject to market conditions. What they should understand is that you do control the tax rate. Unless the bottom falls out of the market now, it doesn't look like houses will be any cheaper next year, and assessments will follow. Your 1 cent reduction last year is laughable, given the current proposal. Maybe if the people's mayor and the city manager could keep something in the water, the patriotic festival, the rock and roll half marathon, or stop giving out voluntary tax exemptions to special groups of residents, you wouldn't need to make up for lost revenue. For city council to approve this real estate tax increase when folks are just getting back on their feet would add insult to injury and demonstrate how politically tone deaf this council has become.
Next speaker is Jimmy Frost. After Mr. Frost is Diana Howard.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Dyer and members of City Council. My name is Jimmy Frost, and I'm here tonight at the behest of Chairman Bill Curtis, speaking on behalf of the Republican Party of Virginia Beach. Politics is easy. Governing is hard, especially when it comes to spending the money citizens have earned and are required to surrender to government. The choices are many, the decisions are difficult, tempers can flare, and rare is the time when everybody gets everything they wanted. But we must also consider the needs of our own citizens. The issues unique to Virginia Beach while we continue to be the safest city for our size in America. All this while remaining one of the best places in the world to raise a family, start a business, or spend your golden years. Several members of this council have graciously taken the time to visit with our party members and friends at the Republican Party breakfast we hold at the Golden Corral every Saturday to explain budget processes and outline to our members what our city's priorities and goals were in this year's budget cycle. This does much to help allay the fears of many, helping foster transparency and understanding. We appreciate and encourage that kind of engagement between elected officials and the taxpayers. Our party creed states in part, fiscal responsibility must be practiced at all levels in government, and while we would certainly welcome Councilman Moss's 91-cent tax rate, which is laudable, we are here tonight to support the current budget proposal of 95 plus 4 because we feel it strikes a fair balance between citizens' needs and government responsibility. Let's be honest, the best time for a tax increase is never, but we can appreciate the unique situation we find ourselves in these days. One of the many things considered in this budget cycle was funding for the stormwater project to address flooding, which many of you supported when you ran for office, and just last fall, the voters gave you an overwhelming mandate to do exactly that. Although admittedly many were alarmed when they realized that yes, we have to pay for these projects somehow, I can tell you without reservation that many in our party like the idea of placing stormwater funds aside in such a way so that the government isn't tempted to take those funds for the next new and shiny thing, kicking the flooding can down the road as has happened before. This proposal also acknowledges the fact that in light of this increasingly difficult economy we find ourselves in, a great many Virginia Beach residents realize we must address flooding with all possible speed. That's important stuff. Although I think I can safely speak for many outside of our party and certainly for every member of our city committee when I say, right now in our country's history, a mean tweet and $1.89 per gallon gasoline sure sounds downright appealing. Although we must be vigilant not to be so thrifty, we forget our fine city employees, firefighters, teachers, and law enforcement, lest we end up like our neighboring cities, begging for manpower and unable to deliver services. But the sad reality is, government is affected by inflation too. All we would ask is challenge yourselves and give this budget one more going over to see if we can actually reach that 91-cent rate. Many people, Democrat and Republican alike, are feeling pinched these days and would appreciate all the help we can get. We know you have the guts to try and have seen you do some great things. Our party believes you can do it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Diana Howard. After Ms. Howard is Lisa Riebold.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Diana Howard, and I am the chair of the Virginia Beach Tea Party. And yes, we are taxed enough already. We're now experiencing the worst inflation in 40 years, as evident by the amount of revenue you're all collecting now on the goods that everybody is buying. That's increased taxes on everything we purchase. So you're flush with money there. Inflation hurts those that are on fixed incomes and lower incomes the most, because their incomes are spent on groceries and keeping a roof over their heads. It's not disposable income for them. Disposable income is going to the ocean front in the tip fund, which is getting a 48%, I think, increase in revenue. There's $366 more million in the CIP budget. Why are we spending more money on the next shiny thing at the ocean front? We should sunset the tip fund, or we should recalculate it so that we can use that excess money to, pay employees or give tax relief, but not give that excess money to the tip so that we can buy property to do whatever, right? We have 800 employee positions that are not filled, right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue in benefits and pay that, it's like a slush fund, and you're going to add another 52 people to it. This is the unique opportunity to downsize government and reduce the burden on taxpayers. You should do what the police department's doing. They recalculated or reassessed 17 positions to still do their job and not add any more people to their budget. Now, I'm sorry that Councilman Bellucci is not here, because I wanted to thank him for last Tuesday when you were all arguing over a thing that he put forward that said something to the effect that you had to talk to each other before spending a few $1,000s on an initiative by a single council person, right? He said we should be responsible with taxpayer money. Where's your responsibility now? You should be doing that now. You should be responsible to look at that budget and take it down to the bone. You should be concentrating on core responsibilities, core, government duties that have to be done. Those are the things you should be funding, and not the business districts when we have neighborhoods that pay an extra real estate tax
Thank
so
you
that
very
they
much.
can have dredging and sanding.
Appreciate
The
it.
next, the next speaker is Lisa Riebold.
And that reminds me that Councilman Bellucci is absent tonight. He is home not feeling well, but is watching us on his big screen.
And
Hope
after
you're
Miss,
feeling better, Michael.
after Miss Riebold will be Rat Riebold.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lisa Riebold. My husband and I opened a small craft brewery in the Vibe Creative District, and I'm here to, one, thank you for all the support you've given the Vibe District the last few years, or many years, I guess. We've just been there. We opened the winter before the pandemic, and so some of the benefits we received just as a small business have been, one, a lot of the funding that has helped media presence that's happened and all the variety of different articles. Apparently there's been over like 750 media articles, blogs, videos out there, and that's helped us. That's something that as a small business we would never have been able to afford without the additional help. Also, for us, we chose that location, both being art lovers, being artists ourselves, having one daughter who's an artist, and just being able to be part of a creative space that really isn't found anywhere else, at least in Virginia Beach. I think there's a little bit more of that in Norfolk, and have been really overwhelmingly surprised at what an amazing community it is, and the different events that have been held, and one of them being even one that I actually am a drummer, and was approached by Kate to be able to start a community drum circle a few years ago, and that's started out being able to get a little stipend, and we had like 8 or 10 people, and then just this last summer, even during the pandemic where we could still be outside and socially distanced, we've had over 30 people, and it's just been such a vibrant place, you know, just and seeing different people from all walks of life be around, come into both our business and just around the community through the farmers markets and everything that's offered there. So just want to support and hope that we can keep the creative juices and the economic support coming into the Vibe District. And thanks for all your support.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Rhett Riebold, and then Melissa Lucasen.
Good evening.
Good evening. My wife's the eloquent one, I think. So I basically, I'm running Vibrant Shore Brewing Company in the Vibe. We've seen the effects of some of the funding that goes to the Vibe. The foot traffic is improving. There's still there's still work to be done. Basically, we're seeing areas that get quite a bit of foot traffic, and then we're located on 18th Street, which is somewhat quiet, and you know, we're doing what we can. But we do love having the business there in the Vibe. It really, you know, kind of there's a community, a feeling of community. The arts. We are both artists, and then one of the things I noticed is how popular the murals are. We've had a stack of mural maps of the Vibe, and we can't seem to keep them in the brewery. They're very popular. People walk around and you know, kind of patronize the businesses and, you know, take in the murals. It's created a scene that's, you know, 3 blocks back, really, from the ocean front, which used to be quite a backwater, and we've really seen the impact. So I'm hoping that there's a way to continue that support.
Hey,
Thank you
thanks
so
a
much.
bunch. Appreciate it.
You bet. Cheers.
The next speaker is Melissa Lucasen, and then Jean Baker.
Good evening.
Okay, let's talk taxes. I looked up the current tax rates for cities in Hampton Roads, and I was shocked to learn that we have the lowest tax rate of all the localities. Even if my property taxes increase $200 a year, that equals $16.66 per month. I will happily sacrifice a Starbucks coffee and an avocado toast once a month to pay for competitive wages. These are the hardworking men and women that some of you complain about when your trash isn't picked up, the police officer that doesn't respond to your non-emergency call in a timely manner, or the city clerk that is berated by citizens daily because they answered the phone. Listening to all the city workers willing to speak out got me wondering, where's the city failing in terms of compensation? Our team has been reviewing city employee pay provided by the city through Open Data Portal. This information was accessed March 3rd. And the data is from July 2021. Here's a small sampling of things we've discovered. Out of the 5,791 individuals salary shared, we found there are 17 individuals under the midpoint of their current position and have 20 or more years in that position. 78 individuals are under the midpoint and have been in their current position between 15 and 20 years. 203 individuals are under the midpoint and have been in their current position between 10 and 15 years. These positions range from account clerks, maintenance, fire, waste management, and even the sheriff's department. We pulled City of Virginia Beach compensation history from 1981 to 2021. The 80s and 90s saw consistent increases in base pay and merit raises every year. A market-based system was implemented in 1995. Every year from 1995 until 2008, there were new minimums, increases in pay ranges, and compression adjustments. Then something happened. A new mayor was elected in 2009. It was the first time since 1991 there was no general increase and no merit increase. Since 2009, general increases have been 2.5% or less, and several years were only to compensate for the VRS offset. From 2008 to 2016, there were no merit raises and only one handful of general raises. In other words, the city found no value in rewarding employees with monetary increases, just a pat on the back and get back to work. Pick up my trash, answer my calls, make sure my drinking water's clean. Before some of you use the 2008 economic crisis as an excuse for your poor decision making, I would like to point out that the recovery began in 2010. Every quarter since 2010, Hampton Roads has seen a GDP growth rate of 2%. Not per year, per quarter. I feel like I've established why reducing our tax rate further will continue to compound the problems we've ignored for more than 14 years. A reduction is irresponsible, just like this body's spending habits. Mr. Moss asked Dr. Spence to pay teachers more. I would say to you, Mr. Moss, don't be a hypocrite. You're fighting for your wife, who works for VPCPS, to get a raise. I wholeheartedly believe they deserve it. Please do the right thing. Increase wages.
The next speaker is Jean Baker. Ms. Baker. Laura Hubbard. And then Laura Hodgins, I'm sorry.
Hey, Laura, how you doing?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members, Vice Mayor. Oh, members of council, Vice Mayor, City Manager Duhaney, City Clerk, staff, and City Attorney. I want to recognize also our board members here from the Vibe Creative District and MOCA, our Executive Director, Kay Pittman. Thank you all for being here. My name is Laura Woodhubber. I'm a co-founder of the Vibe Creative District and the Old Beach Farmers Market. As you have heard from our colleagues and supporters both last week at the Convention Center and here tonight, the arts mean business for Virginia Beach. Not only do they positively impact the city's reputation and quality of life, they actually generate positive income for our city's operating budget. And I want to thank you all for supporting the Vibe back in 2015 when it came before you here. And tonight I hope I can plant another seed with you for an idea for future sustainable funding for our arts community. It's a percent for the arts. It's on the books. It was started in 1986 and it just hasn't been funded since 1990. It's just as valuable as the open space fund that we want to see funded too. But these percent for the arts programs are happening nationally with our peers and cities like Philadelphia, Denver, Phoenix, Kansas City, Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, Florida, and even in our neighboring Norfolk, Virginia. Percent for art ordinances have been established as early as 1959, and in Philadelphia, they just celebrated 60 years of the success of their program. And these sustainable funding platforms for the arts sector is a smart and profitable investment in any city's cultural well-being. It generates positive cultural tourism, a quality of life factor for its citizens. And Virginia Beach's percent for the arts ordinance can do just that. So imagine what Virginia Beach would look like today if we had that sustainable funding for the arts had been maintained since 1986. So I'll end with this, that I urge you to fund the Vibe and MOCA and be willing to meet with us throughout this year and going forward in ways that we can come up with creative ways to support the arts and to keep us from this predicament in the future. So thank you again for your support.
Thanks, appreciate it.
The next speaker is Laura Hoggins. After Ms. Hoggins is Karen Neskowitz.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Laura Hoggins. I am an artist and owner of a local small business, Rockin' Mama's Art Shop. And I started my business online at Etsy and have only been able to maintain it and see it grow through my participation in Old Beach Art and Eco Market. Being new to the community, the Vibe District has given me, my family, and my business a connection to Virginia Beach, along with countless tourists who come by to check out local art, right? I remember the first time that I pulled up and parked at a hand-painted parking meter. The overwhelming sense of welcoming strong community pride and good vibes just was unbelievable to me, and something that is so important, especially in our world today. I am a practicing nurse, which can be a sometimes stressful profession, and my business supports my ability to continue my artwork, which is my way of self-care. The Vibe District and Old Beach Art and Eco Market has given me a way to share this with the community, with my community. And I would like to thank you guys for your time this evening, for all the past support to the district, and hopefully to continue the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Karen Neskowitz, and then Gary Ryan.
Hey, Karen, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?
Good evening, City Council members. I would like to look each of you in the eye. Tell you my name is Karen Neskowitz, and I was born in another state and lived here all my life except for a whole bunch of military PCS moves. But I call it home. I'm a lifelong resident. All day today, I mean all day, I had to continually motivate myself to come here tonight. And that's because I feel like it's like I'm polishing firewood. But here I am to ask you again in person. I've already done email and all that, to ask you again in person to adopt a revenue neutral budget. I'm not going to repeat everything desperate homeowners have already come before you and said. Instead, I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. Why are you sitting in that seat? Why are you really sitting in that seat? Presumably, you know the facts. You know about debt per capita. You know about return on investment. Sorry, I'm nervous. You know about AstroTurf. You know about all these things. If you're truly here to serve the best interests of taxpayers, vote accordingly. Adopt a revenue neutral budget. There is a revenue neutral budget. It is out there. You can make it happen. Please, over and out.
The next speaker is Gary Ryan. After Mrs. Ryan is Conrad Schisventer.
Hey, how you doing, Gary?
Good, Mayor Dyer, thank you so much tonight. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, everyone on the council. I'm back again this week to talk about, not really about art, because I don't think that Virginia Mocha is in the business of art. I mean, art is a means to an end, and you guys have been so generous in supporting us in that pursuit of that end, which is to bring people closer together. I'm struck listening to the stories. I went early last time, and I'm so glad I'm late in the lineup this time to hear all the stories up here and to realize that we're all fighting the same battles on an individual and human level. But sometimes you'd never know that unless you spent the time to listen to someone else's story, to read it, to see it, to experience it. And I just want to say that that's really the business that and that's the process we're in, is trying to bring our community together through the experiences of other people's stories and however they choose to express them, whether that's in visual art or other ways, but them telling us what their life experience is like so we can better understand how we're similar than we are different. And up to this point, I don't think I said thank you enough last week, that you guys have been tremendous in thanking and in supporting art and helping us make inroads into broadening our audience and being able to bring all types of art that tell all types of stories and connect us all together. And I know you have I can't imagine what your deliberations are like. I mean, it's heart-wrenching just to sit here and to listen to all the stories that are up in front of here. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for all the hard work that you're doing. I know that I know this is a really tough time and a tough job, and And I just want to say thank you for your support. And if there's anything that we at the museum can do to support you, just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Conrad Venture, and then Aaron Anderson.
I did not want to argue with myself today, set against my November stance supporting a $568 million flooding bond referendum. We need that bad. Why did we need it? Unambitious and lackadaisical city planning on funding decades back, it caught up with us. Thinking back to Mayor Dyer's "the future is now" comment in regards to some cities spending around the oceanfront area, I have to reflect on how our present was the future of years like 2012 or 2002. I'm not alone in that flooding bond support. 72% of the city supported it in a supermajority fashion, and it is the defined purpose of today's real estate hike proposal. Defined purpose is good. What other defined purposes you all support with new budgets? See, I'm not a big-time hotelier or a real estate big shot soaking your campaigns with dollars. I'm a progressive member of the community action team. I want more defined purposes supporting community interest, not budget interest. I know I'm biting the bullet on this tax hike, but as I look to buy properties in Virginia Beach down the line, I know that it is nonetheless a bullet. It's a hurt to the bottom line of my parents, my brothers, some of my grandparents. It'll hurt my bottom line if I ever buy real estate here. What else will be in exchange for it? Will city workers get higher pay? Will infrastructure from roads, parks, school budgets, and green maintenance and everything else be fully stocked? That's important to ask, as I recall in 2018 that the city transferred some stormwater dollars over to the North Woodstuck Road improvements. If you continually borrow from one infrastructure fund to disperse to others, then you'll constantly try to grow the whole pot with higher taxes. And the tourism funds by design aren't transferable to other projects, if I recall correctly, and that's sort of odd favoritism. And if investing in tourism via a TIF is something with defined purpose, it would be responsible of the city to set right the inequities in our community with the design EIF. After all, if funding the oceanfront in Town Center is a defined purpose of the city of Virginia Beach, funding business and programs to strengthen minority equity would follow in its place, allowing more of our community to be successful enough to buy Virginia Beach housing, where a tax like this will be waiting for them. Thank you.
The next speaker is Aaron Anderson, and then Betsy Hardee.
Good evening.
Hello. I'm Erin Anderson. I'm a senior at Kellum High School, and I'm also a small business owner. I started my business when I was 16, and I had no idea what I was doing or how to get started, but I went after it anyway. The first opportunity given to me was a pop-up at the Vibe's annual Small Business Saturday. Kate Pittman, the executive director of the Vibe, happily connected me with a local business and answered all my seemingly never-ending questions. That day, I held my first ever pop-up outside of WRV and learned more than I ever knew was possible in such a short span of time. This event later connected me to the Old Beach Art and Eco Market, where I began selling at a booth every Saturday. The Vibe District and the wonderful people who run it taught me everything I know about business: how to get a business license, how to pay taxes, and how to connect with the local community. Through the Vibe, I met friends, supporters, and mentors, but most importantly, I met other young entrepreneurs. If the Vibe District hadn't been there for me, I never would have created the business I have today. I never would have been inspired to pursue business as a career, and I never would have dreamed that I could be successful as a young entrepreneur. At just 18, I now have a business that will support me and fully fund my way through college, and I owe this completely to the Vibe. Young people everywhere are dreaming of futures where they can be successful as well, futures where they can help their communities grow, take an active role in their local economies, and fully support themselves for any future plans. Young people everywhere aren't pursuing their dreams because they don't have a community like we do at the Vibe. No matter how many classes we take, books we read, or speakers we listen to, young people will never understand how business works. None of my classes could have prepared me for what I do now, but the Vibe did. We learn by doing, and the Vibe has created a safe space for our community's youth to be doers. For the sake of our young people, their dreams, and their futures, I ask the council to support funding for the Vibe District.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Betsy Hardee. After Miss Hardee is Robert Dean.
Good evening.
Hello, hello. I'm Betsy Hardee, the owner and operator of Hardee's The Art of Jewelry. It's a fifth generation family business that just turned 175 years old. At the height of the Great Recession 12 years ago, we left Willis Wayside town center area to grow our vision of jewelry as an art form. We're proud of our 12-year involvement with the Old Beach Art and Eco Market in the heart of the Vibe Creative District. The Old Beach Markets and the Vibe are the reason for the renaissance of our new neighborhood. When we arrived in 2010, our new home in Pavilion 2 was a stark contrast to a rundown area. This area has radically transformed from vacant lots, empty storefronts, and blank walls to a busy, energetic, tax-paying community. It's been rewarding to see new businesses created through Old Beach Art and Eco Market, offering a level playing field for old and new alike at minimal cost. The market has been a jumping-off place for local and regional startups and a number of entrepreneurs graduating on to bricks-and-mortar locations within the Vibe District. Drawing hundreds of people weekly, the Old Beach Markets have become a destination for locals and guests alike. City support has been positive, and council should know buying the required business license has been made an easy process. Maggie Blinn is aware of each vendor accepted for the market, and between us, we make certain business licenses are secured. The Vibe Creative District is a good news story that can be an example nationwide. Let's keep it vibrant in our city's budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Dean is the next speaker. And Mia Gill? Guile.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, in a letter to John Hampton Pheasants in 1824, Thomas Jefferson said, "The authority of the people is a necessary foundation for a constitution." Well, ladies and gentlemen sitting on the dais this evening, I believe it's in order to remind you that the reason we have a constitutional republic is to protect the people from the government. And this evening, as you hear from we the people, I guess I need to remind you that the proposed budget, in simple terms, is legalized theft. The excess revenues that were not anticipated need to go back to we the overtaxed people, Mr. Tower. And when you post a lie on my webpage, vbgov.com, it incenses me. I don't like lies, and further, I despise liars. When you state that you are only raising my real estate tax rate 2.3 cents, that is a lie. And when you tell your employers, we the people, a lie, either you lack integrity or have none. Now, this is for the listening audience who understands simple math. On July 1, the effective real estate tax rate as required by Virginia law will be 91 cents per hundred. In order to reach your tax rate of $1.013, thereby punishing beach taxpayers, you will have to hold a separate public hearing, known as Part B. And during that meeting, you will have to increase the tax rate from 91 cents to $1.013, which is a 11.32% tax increase, or 10.3 cents, not the advertised rate of 2.3. Shame on you, Bobby Dyer and Rosemary Wilson, for pushing these tax increases on the backs of financially stressed families. Every one of you talk about family values, but there is but one member on this council that values families, and that is Councilman John Moss, sitting right there. Rocky Holcomb, when you served in the General Assembly, you were a registered Republican and voted like one. I'm not sure why your spots have changed that force you to raise taxes on those folks you represent. I expect you to second John Moss's substitute motion for his tax-neutral budget, especially since a portion of your deputy sheriff salary comes directly from the budget. And I don't really care what the city attorney says. Ethically, it's a conflict of interest.
The rest of you must be operating under ignorance unless you're purposely accepting the fact that integrity no longer is in your vocabulary. Shame on you. Vote no tax increase. Thank you.
Mia Guile. And then Steph Sterner is the next speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening, City Council. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for your time as well. My name is Mia Guile. $937,000. Is that a high number to you for a house in Shadow Lawn? It's pretty high. That just sold a couple days ago, 2 houses over from my house. So the economic impact that the Vibe Creative District has had certainly can be felt. Thank you, Kate Pittman and Laura Haber, for that. And all the others that strive to keep the Vibe alive. I moved to Shadow Lawn because of the Vibe, okay? I started volunteering at first, and then I loved the environment, and that's what drew me. So I also became a docent at MOCA because I just needed to be in the space where I felt connection and community. Just as Vibe has had a wonderful economic impact and growth on our community, the Vibe has had also a soul growth for me. Because of my personal challenges is why I moved there. And the Vibe and the MOCA have given me so much that I am now able to give back. I'm a treasurer of the Vibe Creative District Friends Board. I sit on the Public Art Committee for the Cultural Affairs City of Virginia Beach. And I have recently been appointed a commissioner of the Arts and Humanities Commission. And I get to work with such wonderful organizations and see such cool things come alive. And I see people of all ages engaging in the Vibe and MOCA. And as another example, one of the cool things that I get to do now is I get asked to jury art shows, and I just did Salem High School's Visual and Performing Art School. I juried their show, and the exhibit can be viewed at the MOCA, and we have wonderful artists because of our school system. Anyway, I wanted to say that also I'm able to live my dream now because of the inspiration of where I live. I am now a selling and working artist out of my own home, and will have several shows this year alone, 5, because I moved close to the art community. Without art, I am nothing. Without you guys that do this, I am nothing. So it's a mutual exchange. You know, I'm a community member. You guys give me, I give you. And I've heard so many stories tonight too, like Gary was saying.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Steph Sterner.
Hello, guys. Someone's let me out of the cage. I've been trying to get a hold of y'all for 2 weeks. Emails and calls. But thank you for having me speak. And I'm glad the microphone's finally on. It wasn't on earlier, but I'll try not to touch it. Don't worry. I just have a question for y'all. I grew up in this city, okay? Every one of y'all know that. I went to the schools. Remember Miss Drescher from Independence Middle School. She encouraged me to be who I wanted to be. Mr. Burnick from Princess Anne High School. He told me it doesn't matter what people think. It just matters that I'm who I am. So I'm hearing you're expanding the budget for police officers, fire department, EMS. That's great. What about our city workers who collect your trash? You know, collect your holiday trash and to make sure your water's clean to drink. I'm just asking that you give them a raise. Maybe some, I don't know. They kind of deserve a living wage, so I got this for you guys. I'm not sure if you saw it. Virginia Beach workers. Right here. You guys, very important. Same people are keeping your city clean, respectable. These are our ways, so please consider that. Seriously, man. Y'all can do it. We got money there. Don't act like we're empty. We got money. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, okay? That's there. I love you guys. Please help them.
Mayor, the remainder of the speakers are via WebEx.
Okay.
The first one is Alexandra Howard. If you will pause 2 to 3 seconds before beginning, they're on there. Alexander Howard, you are unmuted and may begin.
Hello all, can you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me? Hello.
Ms. Howard, we can hear you. If you will begin your comments, thank you.
English is not my primary language, but I'll try my best. I've moved into my new home back in 2019, and at that time the prices on the housing wasn't as high. And when I was planning my budget, I wasn't predicting that the housing market will go so high up, and my tax will just grow every year more and more in percentage for the real estate. And my husband and I, we work on the jobs that unfortunately does not allow for an increase like the self-employer would have. Our childcare costs went up, our food and our gas went up in the past year, and our wages did not. And doesn't seem in the nearest future that it will be, because we have no influence over that. And that puts us in a predicament where we have to go from meat that we used to have at certain cut to lowest cut. And I have asked my employer to let me work from home so I don't spend as much money on gas. But I can't do anything about real estate tax if it is imposed by the city. And it eventually ends up that I cannot afford my house. I will have to size down or move out and find another housing. And it's just not in the current economy that I feel that all the money can be spent in the art and so on. Everybody else's wages go up, and ours being a certain employer that just doesn't do it, we can't move forward with this. We can't live in our house. That's the current situation. And I really, really appreciate you guys giving me a opportunity to speak, but I would hope you would reconsider this budget and get to 91-cent tax rate for our homes in Virginia Beach, because then we will be just forced to be out of the house. And if we can't put food on our tables, we can't feed our children, we can't provide the roof over the head of our children, what's the point to spend money on anything else at the ocean front or any art or anywhere else? Thank you so much for giving me opportunity. I hope this will be reconsidered.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, and let me apologize. I misspoke. We have 3 additional in-person speakers, so if I could finish those and then we'll finish WebEx, is that okay?
That would be great.
I
Thank you.
apologize. Ron Cooper is in person, and then Terry Johnson. Sir, Ron Cooper. Terry Johnson. And then after Mr. Johnson will be Sarah Dawn, and then we'll go back to the last 2
You
WebEx
got it.
speakers.
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, sir. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you.
Not yelling at you, just trying to project. It's a little bit harder to hear in the back for people. Coming to you today on behalf of the Western Bayside community, and I'm one of our leaders, Dr. Michael Daniels. We want to talk about the widening of Herbert Road in the Bayside community of Virginia Beach. And I want to share a letter that was written by Dr. Daniels to Councilman Berlucci. He said he's attending via telecommuting, so we can start with that. As you're aware, the members of the Western Bayside United and residents of the community are extremely concerned about the safety hazard that results from the narrowness of Herbert Road. Therefore, we're asking for your help to get Herbert Moore Road widened to accommodate two-way traffic and to get the sidewalk extended the length of the street. Herbert Moore Road is one of the primary roads used by public school buses for pickup and drop-off of elementary school students. Middle high school students also walk down Herbert Moore Road as their primary route to and from their homes to get to school bus pickup locations. Unfortunately, the sidewalk on this street does not extend the entire length of the street. Thus, students are required to walk in the street to get to and from their homes. And once again, I want to point out, it's barely enough room for one economy car. If a car is approaching, the child has to walk in the resident's side yard to avoid getting hit by a car. Additionally, the road is too narrow for two-way traffic if one vehicle is larger than a compact car. Cars have to pull off the road to allow the flow of traffic to continue. This is a great threat to the well-being and life of property in the event of an emergency vehicle that needs to use the street to get their intended response location. We're asking for your support to widen Herbert Moore Road during the current budget cycle. And as a member of the Bayside community for the past 20 years, we've asked for this, and we've asked for this several times. We have petitions signed by members supporting this initiative. It's very important to us, and for someone that, volunteers out in the Bayside community, we go out there, pick up trash, we sponsor community events, and that road is always a problem when police cars and ambulances have to traffic through that way. It's just very narrow, and we're not asking to expand the budget. The money is already there to support these community improvement projects. We're asking that go to the widening of Herbert Moore Road, sir.
Hey, thanks for a bunch.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks for stepping to the plate and working for your community. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, sir. It's a pleasure to do it. It's just one of these things that will help us help the community.
You got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Mr. Johnson, would you like for me to have those petitions for the record, or whatever you? It's whatever you want to do. I mean, you can give those to. They can be made part of the record if you like.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The next speaker is Sarah Dawn, and then after Ms. Dawn, we'll go back to the last two WebEx speakers.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here just
Hold
as,
the mic down a little.
Okay, like this? Okay. Okay. I'm a regular citizen, and I'm a student of how all the important decisions are made around here. And I am here to ask you to vote no on the proposed tax increase. And I've written down what I want to say, but I guess I do better speaking from my heart to make sense of things. But I really appreciate all of everybody who has spoken from the Vibe District that I've heard over the last 2 weeks, and they all seem like really kind people and like they're doing important work. It's just what I'm learning is that when they say, invest in this area of tourism and entertainment and what is good for the community because it will create revenue for the city. And I don't know if I'm understanding this right. I wish you guys could talk back to me or not and be like, yes, you're getting it. But, okay, so they're saying we're making money. You invest money in them, the city makes money. But that money, from my understanding, isn't being used for all this benevolence and the salaries that need to come up. If that money was used for that, it would be great, but instead it's that being taken from the people that the people in the Vibe District are saying they're trying to help. So if you're trying to help those people, why can't we zoom out for a minute and say, oh, the Vibe District seems to be doing okay. Let's take this money and put it, because we know from the numbers, from the people who can do the math, who can see the future through the numbers. Some people are gifted at that, and thankfully John Moss is and has tried to shine a light on what's going on. And also Robert Dean has even taken me around to the farmers in our city and had me talk to them, and they're saying they're having trouble with fertilizer and stock up on beef right now, and chickens are already diseased. This is what we're looking at, inflation, and we're talking about putting more money in the art district right now. Let's use common sense, it seems like to me, and I'm just a regular person trying to understand this. So if the Vibe District is supporting the community so much, why aren't the citizens here saying, please give more money to the Vibe District. No, we're hearing that from the business owners, the ones collecting the money for that. You know, I love the Vibe District. I love going down there, but I'm not here asking you to give them more money. I'm asking you to put it back.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll go back now to the WebEx speakers. The next WebEx speaker is Corey Hill. You are unmuted and may begin. Schinnebarger. Ms. Schinnebarger, you are unmuted and may begin.
Good evening, Mayor Dyer and City Council members. Thank you for serving nearly 500,000 citizens in Virginia Beach. Please consider temporarily adjusting the Tourist Investment Fund. While I understand the tourist investment strategy, this is hardly the time for allocating extravagant spending at the oceanfront. I strongly question that $45 million line item for site acquisition. Maybe that amount could more realistically be set at $20 million. I appreciate the property tax reduction from 11.1%, but and 9% is still outrageous. It's outrageous. We've seen recently property tax increases in recent years, yet we never really see any differences in the amount of work or the quality of work. And also, please realize that staff morale is extremely important. I encourage you to research ways to boost morale in addition to paying reasonable compensation. And we've also heard the theme many times about sending a message of Virginia Beach being open for business. That wasn't meant for a certain elite group, was it? We like to think that hopefully that phrase applies to the nearly 500,000 citizens who would probably prefer to support keeping businesses open with their own money and keeping businesses running healthy and running strong. And we can do that if we can keep more of our own money instead of being forced to pay it to the city. Anyway, help us help keep Virginia Beach staying open for business. Thank you.
Mayor, that's all the speakers.
Okay. Thank you all for coming out and participating in your government. Thank you. We are adjourned.